The rain came down like shards of glass, slicing through the night as Emily Carter clutched her swollen belly, crying out in pain. Her contractions had started. Every nerve in her body screamed for help, but none came. She stood at the front door of her own home, drenched, terrified, begging the man she loved to open it. "Ryan, please," she gasped, her voice trembling. "It's happening. The babies." But the door didn't open. From behind the window, she saw her husband, Ryan Carter, standing still. Next to him, a woman in a silk robe, Vanessa Moore, leaned close to his ear and whispered something. Then, with a cold smirk, Vanessa turned her head toward Emily and mouthed the words that cut deeper than any knife. "Go away." Emily's heart shattered. Just hours ago, she had believed Ryan might finally come home early to take her to the hospital, that maybe, just maybe, he would hold her hand again. But now, in the middle of the storm, she realized the truth she'd been too scared to face. Ryan didn't love her anymore. "Please," Emily whispered again, barely able to stand. "It's our children." Vanessa's voice sliced through the door. "They're not my problem, Emily. You're pathetic. You always will be." The sound of the lock sliding shut echoed louder than thunder. Emily's knees buckled. Her breath quickened as pain tore through her abdomen. She pressed her hand against her stomach and screamed, "Help me? Somebody, please." But the neighborhood was silent. Every house light was off. Only the street lamp flickered over her trembling body. Her mind raced between fear and disbelief. How did it come to this? Just 2 years ago, she was a happy school teacher, decorating the nursery with soft yellow stars, humming lullabies while waiting for Ryan to come home. But nights turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the man who once called her my sunshine began spending his days and nights with Vanessa. Another contraction hit. She stumbled to her car, but the keys slipped from her shaking hands. Her vision blurred, the world tilted. All she could hear was the pounding of rain and the thundering of her heart. Inside the house, Vanessa whispered, "Let her go, Ryan. If you open that door, she'll never stop coming back." Ryan hesitated, tears filling his eyes. "She's my wife." "Not anymore," Vanessa replied, gripping his hand tightly. "You're with me now. She's nothing." Outside, Emily fell to her knees, her hands pressed to the cold pavement. Her water broke, the rain washing away her tears. She looked up one last time at the window where her husband stood. For a brief second, their eyes met. Then the curtains closed. The lightning flashed, white, blinding, merciless. Emily's cry pierced the night as she felt her body surrender. A pair of headlights appeared in the distance, growing closer, brighter, until they stopped right in front of her. A man stepped out of the car, rushing toward her, shouting for help. And that was the moment Emily Carter's life and the lives of her unborn twins changed forever. Before the storm, before the betrayal, Emily Carter's life was filled with warmth. She used to wake up to the smell of cinnamon pancakes and Ryan's laughter echoing through their cozy kitchen. They were the kind of couple people envied, high school sweethearts who built their dreams from nothing. Emily worked as an elementary school teacher, nurturing children with patience and kindness, while Ryan ran a small contracting business. They had plans, buying a bigger house, traveling once the babies came. For years, she believed love like theirs could survive anything. But cracks had begun to form long before the rain. It started subtly: missed dinners, unanswered texts, late nights at the office. Emily told herself it was normal. "He's just busy," she'd whisper while folding baby clothes, tracing her fingers over the tiny socks she'd bought in pairs. She didn't see the danger creeping in, the danger with red lips, expensive perfume, and eyes that sparkled with ambition. Vanessa Moore entered their lives as Ryan's new assistant. She was confident, sharp, and too comfortable around her husband. Emily remembered their first meeting vividly. Vanessa had extended a manicured hand, smiling sweetly. "You must be the famous Mrs. Carter," she said, her tone dripping with charm. But Emily had felt it immediately, the invisible wall forming between her and Ryan. Within months, Vanessa was everywhere. She called Ryan at dinner, sent late-night texts about urgent projects, and somehow always needed him when Emily was alone. When Emily brought it up, Ryan brushed her off. "You're overthinking," he said, not meeting her eyes. "Vanessa's just helping the business." Emily wanted to believe him. Love makes fools of the honest. She kept cooking his favorite meals, writing notes for his lunchbox, waiting by the window every night. But Ryan stopped coming home before midnight. The scent of unfamiliar perfume lingered on his shirts. Her heart began to ache in ways she couldn't explain. The night she found out the truth, she'd gone to Ryan's office homemade soup. Vanessa's car was parked outside. Through the glass door she saw them laughing, Vanessa's hand resting on Ryan's chest. The soup slipped from her fingers, crashing to the floor. Neither of them noticed. That night, Emily didn't confront him. She just sat in the nursery staring at the two empty cribs. She whispered softly, "Mommy's here, my loves. No matter what happens, I'll keep you safe." But deep down, she knew something was slipping away. Her marriage, her trust, her future. Days turned into weeks of silent tension. Ryan barely looked at her anymore. Vanessa started showing up at their house for meetings. Emily felt like a ghost in her own home. When she tried to talk, Ryan snapped, "Stop being dramatic, Emily. Not everything's about you." That night, she cried until dawn. She touched her belly and felt the twins move, their tiny kicks giving her strength. "I'll protect you," she promised them, "even if I have to do it alone." She didn't know those words would soon become her reality. Because the next time Vanessa walked through that door, Emily's world would collapse forever. The morning Vanessa Moore officially moved into Emily's house was the day sunlight stopped touching the windows. Emily woke up to the sound of laughter echoing from downstairs, a woman's laughter. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming, but when she walked down the stairs, clutching her belly, she saw Vanessa in her kitchen, wearing Ryan's old shirt and flipping pancakes like she owned the place. "Good morning," Vanessa said casually, not even looking up. "Ryan said I could stay here for a while. Business stuff, you know?" Emily froze. "What did you say?" Ryan entered holding 2 mugs of coffee. He looked exhausted, guilty, but mostly afraid. "Emily, calm down. Vanessa's apartment lease ended. It's temporary." "Temporary?" Emily's voice cracked. "You let your assistant move into our home? Our baby's home?" Ryan set the mugs down and rubbed his face. "It's just until her new place is ready. Don't make this harder than it is." Vanessa turned with a smirk that didn't bother hiding itself. "Relax, Emily. I'll stay out of your way. We're all adults here." But she didn't. Every corner of the house began to smell like her perfume. Her shoes filled the entryway. Her laughter filled the nights. Emily tried to ignore it, to focus on preparing for her twins, but Vanessa made that impossible. At breakfast, Vanessa sat beside Ryan, sharing inside jokes. When Emily tried to talk about the nursery or doctor appointments, Ryan brushed her off, staring at his phone. Once when Emily was folding baby clothes, Vanessa wandered in, picked up a onesie and said, "Twins, huh? Brave of you. Personally, I could never handle 2 at once." Emily's chest tightened. "I can handle it. They're my children." Vanessa smiled sweetly. "For now." That night, Emily confronted Ryan. "I want her out," she said firmly. "This is our home, not hers." Ryan sighed, his patience thinning. "Stop it, Emily. You're hormonal. Vanessa's helping me with the company finances. You should be grateful." "Grateful?" Emily repeated, her voice trembling. "For what? Watching my husband flirt with another woman under my roof?" Ryan slammed his hand against the counter. "I said stop." The sound made Emily flinch. For the first time, she saw anger in his eyes. Not the man she married, but someone colder, unreachable. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, pretending to look concerned. "Is everything okay here?" Ryan turned toward her, softening instantly. "Yeah, everything's fine." Vanessa stepped closer to him, her hand brushing his arm. "You shouldn't argue with her, Ryan. Stress isn't good for the babies." Emily's breath caught. The way Vanessa said the babies sounded wrong, like ownership. She felt her heart breaking piece by piece. That night, she locked herself in the nursery and cried quietly beside the crib. She whispered, "I'll protect you, my loves. I'll protect you from everyone." Downstairs, Vanessa leaned close to Ryan and whispered, "You don't have to keep pretending, you know, you're already mine." And from that moment on, Emily realized, Vanessa wasn't moving in temporarily. She was moving in to take everything. Emily tried to keep her heart from breaking, but every day it became harder. The house that once smelled of vanilla candles now reeked of Vanessa's perfume. The laughter that once belonged to her and Ryan now came from behind closed doors. Hers replaced by silence. She spent her mornings cooking breakfast for 3, pretending not to notice when only 2 plates were touched. Every night, she whispered to her unborn twins, "Mommy's here, don't worry." but the ache in her chest grew heavier. Then one Friday night, Emily's world finally cracked open. Ryan said he was working late again, but something in his tone felt off. He didn't kiss her forehead like he used to. He didn't even look her in the eye. After he left, Emily sat in the dark living room staring at her phone, her pulse pounding in her ears. For weeks she had tried to trust him, but that night, something inside her snapped. She grabbed her coat, waddled to the car, and followed his truck through the rain. Every bump in the road made her stomach tighten, but she kept driving. The trail led to the downtown hotel, the same one where Ryan had once taken her for their anniversary. Her hands trembled as she parked near the side entrance. Through the lobby glass, she saw him, Ryan, standing at the counter, laughing with Vanessa. Vanessa's hand rested possessively on his chest. The clerk handed them a key card. Emily's breath hitched. The world tilted. She pressed a hand against her belly and whispered, "It can't be real." But it was. She watched them step into the elevator together. That image burned into her mind like fire. Her chest tightened, and she could barely breathe. She stumbled out of the car, desperate to confront him, but her reflection in the glass stopped her. She looked pale, broken, and small. She saw a woman begging for love from someone who'd already thrown it away. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Not tonight. I won't let him see me like this." She turned and walked back to her car, clutching her belly as if holding the only pure thing she had left. Back home, she sat in the nursery, staring at the two tiny cribs she had built with her own hands. Ryan had promised to paint them blue and pink once the babies' genders were confirmed. Now, one crib still sat half-painted, a frozen memory of love unfinished. When Ryan returned in the morning, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't his, Emily was waiting at the kitchen table. Her eyes were swollen, her hands shaking. "Where were you?" she asked quietly. "Don't start," he muttered, not meeting her gaze. She slid a hotel receipt across the table. His face drained of color. "Ryan," she whispered, voice cracking. "Was it worth it?" He didn't answer. Vanessa's name was printed clearly on the receipt next to his. Emily stood up, trembling. "You've killed us," she said softly. "Whatever we were, it's gone." Ryan looked at her, guilt flickering for a moment. But then he turned away. And as Emily's tears fell onto the floor, she didn't know this betrayal was only the beginning of her nightmare. It happened 3 nights after Emily discovered the hotel receipt. She hadn't spoken to Ryan since. The silence between them was louder than shouting. Cold, thick, unbreakable. She spent her days upstairs, packing a small hospital bag, just in case the twins decided to come early. Her due date was still 2 weeks away, but her body felt heavy, tight, and ready. She prayed for peace, even if only for the sake of her unborn children. That evening, thunder rumbled across the sky. The air inside the house felt just as charged, full of tension and static. Emily stood at the kitchen sink, washing dishes, when she heard heels clicking against the floor behind her. She didn't have to turn to know it was Vanessa. "You really should start looking for another place," Vanessa said casually, leaning against the counter. "Ryan and I need space. You understand, right?" Emily turned slowly, her hands trembling. "This is my home. My name's on the mortgage." Vanessa smiled faintly. "Names can be changed." The words hit like a slap. Before Emily could respond, Ryan entered, his expression drawn and cold. He didn't look at her, he looked through her. "Emily," he said quietly, "maybe you should stay somewhere else for a while. It'll be better for everyone." "For everyone?" she whispered. "Or just for her?" Ryan rubbed his temples. "Don't make this harder. You're stressed. You need rest." "I need my husband," she said, tears filling her eyes. "I need my family back." Vanessa scoffed. "Oh, please, you had your chance. Now don't make a scene." Emily's breathing quickened. The pain in her lower back grew sharper, stronger. She pressed a hand to her belly. "Ryan, the babies. I think it's starting." He looked uneasy. "Then call someone. Call a cab." "Ryan, please," she begged. "I can't drive." But Vanessa stepped forward, crossing her arms. "She's manipulating you. She'll be fine. She always finds a way to make you feel guilty." Emily shook her head in disbelief. "I'm your wife. I'm carrying your children." Ryan's face hardened. "Not anymore." Those words shattered her completely. He opened the door and gestured toward the storm. Rain poured down like a curtain, soaking the front steps. "Go," he said quietly. "You can't stay here." Emily stood frozen, her heart pounding, every contraction stabbing like fire. Ryan, please, she whispered. Please don't do this to me. Vanessa leaned against him, her voice soft and poisonous. Let her go. It's better this way. And he did. He let her go. Emily stepped outside, barefoot, the cold rain soaking through her thin dress. She turned one last time, hoping he'd stop her, but Ryan only closed the door. The lock clicked, a sound she'd never forget. She stumbled down the driveway, gripping her belly, screaming in pain. The thunder swallowed her cries. Each step felt heavier, weaker, until she collapsed by the curb. The world blurred into gray. Her water broke, mixing with the rain. Her vision dimmed. Somewhere far away, she heard the sound of a car approaching, headlights cutting through the darkness. And just before her consciousness slipped away, she saw a man's shadow running toward her, shouting her name. The headlights blinded Emily as she struggled to keep her eyes open. Her body trembled violently, her contractions coming closer together, stronger each time. The rain soaked her hair, her dress, her skin. She could taste the salt of her own tears. The world felt distant, muffled, like she was underwater. Then she heard it, a man's voice, urgent, commanding, terrified. Hey, can you hear me? A tall figure knelt beside her, his coat already drenched. He gently lifted her head, his hand steady but trembling. My God, you're freezing. Stay with me, ma'am. What's your name? Emily, she whispered weakly. Please, the babies. He looked down and froze. Blood and rain mixed on the pavement. Twins, he muttered. You're in labor. Okay, stay calm. I'm calling an ambulance. He pulled out his phone with shaking fingers. Yes, I need an ambulance right now. Corner of Maple and 3rd. Pregnant woman, twins, active labor. She's not conscious. Just hurry. Emily's vision flickered. Don't let them die. He leaned close, his voice breaking. I won't. You're safe now. I promise. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. The man removed his coat and wrapped it around her. Come on, stay awake, he said, brushing the wet hair from her face. Don't close your eyes, Emily. Look at me. Her eyelids fluttered. Who are you? Michael, he said. Michael Reynolds. The name barely registered before another contraction hit. Emily screamed, clutching his arm. Michael's heart pounded as he shouted for help. 2 paramedics ran toward them with a stretcher. She's in full labor, one of them yelled. We have to move now. Michael helped lift her, his hand still gripping hers. You're going to make it, he whispered. You and the babies, I promise. The ambulance doors slammed shut, and Michael jumped in beside her without thinking. Rain streaked across the windows as the sirens cut through the night. Inside, the paramedics worked frantically. Contraction every 2 minutes, heart rate dropping. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. Please, save them. Michael squeezed her hand tighter. Don't talk like that. You'll see them soon. Just hold on. She looked at him through half-lidded eyes. There was something kind in his face, steady, grounding. He wasn't panicking like everyone else. You have kids? She asked faintly. He hesitated. I had a son. His throat tightened. He's gone now. A tear slid down Emily's cheek. I'm sorry. The paramedic shouted. We're losing her pressure. Michael's grip tightened. No, Emily, you hear me? You don't give up. You fight. For them. The hospital lights appeared through the rain. The doors opened, and she was wheeled inside. Michael followed, refusing to leave. Doctors surrounded her, shouting orders. Then, silence. A single cry pierced the air. Then another. 2 tiny, desperate cries. Michael exhaled, shaking. They made it, he whispered. But Emily didn't respond. Her head fell to the side, her eyes half open. Emily, he said, panic rising. Emily, stay with me. Her fingers twitched weakly. She whispered one final plea before slipping into unconsciousness. Promise me, don't let them be alone. When Emily opened her eyes, the world was blindingly white. The steady beeping of machines echoed in her ears. Her body ached, her throat was dry, and her first instinct was to touch her stomach. But it was flat now. Panic rushed through her veins. The babies, she whispered hoarsely. Where are my babies? A nurse appeared quickly, gently pressing her shoulder. Please, Mrs. Carter, try to stay calm. You went into labor during the storm. You lost a lot of blood, but you're safe now. Where are they? Emily repeated, her voice trembling. The nurse hesitated. They're both alive, she said softly, but one of them is very weak. The doctors are doing everything they can. Tears filled Emily's eyes. Can I see them? Soon, the nurse replied, but the doctor needs to speak with you first. Moments later, Dr. Patel entered the room, her expression kind but serious. Emily, you gave birth to twin babies, a boy and a girl. The girl is strong, breathing on her own. The boy, however, was born premature and isn't responding well. He needs specialized care, the kind we don't have at this hospital. Emily's breath caught. Then send him somewhere else. Whatever it takes, please. Dr. Patel sighed. We've contacted the nearest neonatal center, but transport isn't guaranteed tonight. The roads are flooded, and without intensive equipment. She stopped herself, glancing at the door. That's when Michael Reynolds stepped in, still wearing his rain-soaked jacket. He looked exhausted, but determined. I can help, he said firmly. Dr. Patel turned toward him. Mr. Reynolds, you shouldn't even be here. He wouldn't be alive without her, Michael interrupted. And I won't walk away now. I have a private medical team. They can take the boy tonight, full neonatal support. Emily stared at him, confused. Why? Why would you do that? Michael met her gaze, his eyes full of something unspoken. Because once, someone saved my child. I couldn't return the favor. Maybe now I can. Her heart clenched. You'd take care of him? I'd make sure he survives, he said. But there's one condition. You have to agree. Legally, temporarily, until you're strong enough to take him back. The words felt heavy, like chains. Emily's tears flowed freely. She looked toward the small window where the rain still poured outside. You're asking me to give him away, she whispered. I'm asking you to save him, Michael said softly. Dr. Patel placed a clipboard beside her bed. Emily, time is running out. Her hands shook as she reached for the pen. Every fiber of her being screamed against it. A mother should never have to choose. But when she thought of her son's fragile heartbeat, she knew she couldn't let him die. I'll do it, she whispered. Just promise me. He'll know I love him. Michael nodded solemnly. I'll make sure he does. As she signed the papers, the rain outside grew heavier. The nurse gently brought her baby girl to her arms. Emily held the child close, sobbing into the soft blanket. And as she watched Michael leave with the ambulance carrying her son, her heart broke in two. Because in saving one child, Emily Carter had just lost another. The hospital room felt unbearably quiet after Michael left. The rhythmic beeping of the monitors only reminded Emily that her son was gone, at least for now. She held her newborn daughter against her chest, rocking gently, trying to fill the aching space where her other baby should have been. The rain had stopped outside, but inside her heart, the storm still raged. The nurses smiled softly as they entered and checked on her, but Emily barely heard them. She stared at the tiny pink blanket wrapped around her daughter. Lily, she whispered, finally giving her a name. You'll never be alone. Mommy's here. But even as she said it, guilt sliced through her. How could she promise safety to one when she had let the other go? Her son, her tiny, fragile boy, was somewhere in an ambulance with a stranger, fighting for his life. A stranger who had shown her more compassion in one night than her own husband ever had. When the doctor returned, Emily asked the only question that mattered. Will he live? Dr. Patel hesitated. He's strong for a preemie, but it's a long road. The man, Mr. Reynolds, has the best doctors. If anyone can help your son, it's them. Emily nodded faintly, tears sliding down her cheeks. Then maybe I made the right choice, she whispered. That night, while Lily slept in her bassinet, Emily stared at the ceiling and replayed every moment of the past 24 hours. The betrayal, the rain, the door closing in her face, the pain of birth, the impossible decision. It all felt like a cruel test she hadn't studied for. By morning, she was discharged. Too soon, too weak, but she had nowhere else to go. Ryan hadn't called. Vanessa hadn't texted. The home she once loved was now a battlefield she could never return to. When the nurse helped her gather her things, she noticed a note left on the bedside table. The handwriting was neat, masculine. Emily, I've taken your son to a private facility 2 hours from here. He's stable. Rest and recover. When you're ready, reach out. You'll always be welcome. Michael. Her fingers trembled as she read it. The words were simple, but they carried something she hadn't felt in a long time. Trust. Outside, a cab waited. Emily hugged Lily close and whispered, We'll find him again, my love. Someday. The cab ride home was quiet. She didn't look back at the hospital, afraid her heart might shatter if she did. When they arrived at her street, her pulse stopped. Ryan's car was gone. The house windows were dark. Inside, everything was different. Vanessa's perfume lingered, but the pictures of her and Ryan had vanished from the walls. On the counter lay a single note. I can't do this anymore. Vanessa and I are leaving. Don't contact me. Her knees buckled. She sank to the floor, clutching Lily. He left us, she whispered. He really left us. And for the first time, Emily didn't cry for her husband. She cried for the woman she used to be, the one who believed love could fix everything. Because in that moment, she realized she wasn't just a wife abandoned. She was a mother divided by fate, and she would have to rebuild her life from nothing. 2 days passed before Michael Reynolds finally received the call he'd been waiting for. The neonatal team confirmed it. The baby boy was stable, weak but breathing on his own. Michael sat in the sterile hospital hallway, running a hand through his hair, his eyes fixed on the tiny incubator inside the room. The baby's chest rose and fell slowly, each breath a fragile miracle. "He's a fighter," said the nurse softly, adjusting the tubes. "Most babies in his condition don't respond this quickly." Michael smiled faintly. "Then he takes after his mother," he murmured. He didn't know much about Emily Carter, except that she had been betrayed, abandoned, and still managed to find the strength to bring 2 lives into this world. The night he found her bleeding in the street had haunted him. No one deserved to be left like that, especially not a woman about to give birth. The nurse handed him a clipboard. "You're listed as the emergency guardian for now. We'll need your consent for the next procedures." Michael hesitated for only a second before signing. He wasn't just helping out of pity. Something about that baby stirred something deep inside him. He thought of his late wife, Sarah, and their son, Aiden, both gone too soon. Maybe saving this child was his way of finding peace again. He leaned close to the incubator. "Hang in there, little one. You're not alone, I promise." Hours later, his assistant, Karen, entered the room. "Sir, the press is asking about your sudden leave. Should I tell them you're on a private matter?" Michael nodded. "Yes, and make sure no one finds out about the baby. Not a word until the mother's ready." Karen hesitated. "You really think she'll want to see you again after everything she's been through?" Michael looked through the glass at the tiny child. "If it were me, I'd want to know someone kept their word." Meanwhile, across town, Emily sat in a small rented apartment, staring at the rain streaking down the window. Lily slept peacefully in her crib. Emily traced circles on the fogged glass, wondering if her son was still fighting. She read Michael's note again and again until the words blurred. "Thank you," she whispered to no one. "Please keep him safe." Back at the hospital, a soft cry broke the silence. Michael looked up and smiled. The baby's eyes were open. For the first time, they met. Michael's chest tightened with emotion. "Hey there, little man, you made it." The nurse approached quietly. "He needs a name for the medical records." The mother didn't list one. Michael hesitated, his throat tightening. "Ethan," he said finally. "His name is Ethan." It felt right, like destiny. As the night deepened, Michael sat beside Ethan's incubator, reading reports, making calls, ensuring the best care money could buy. When he finally stood to leave, he placed his hand gently on the glass. "I don't know what your future holds," he whispered, "but I'll make sure it's brighter than your beginning." And though he didn't know it yet, that single promise would bind his life to Emily's forever. 3 years passed, and the pain that once ruled Emily Carter's life had softened into something quieter. But it never truly disappeared. The small apartment she'd rented after the storm had become a home, filled with sunlight, laughter, and the soft humming of a mother raising her daughter alone. Lily, now 3 years old, had her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn chin. Every time she smiled, Emily felt both joy and sorrow twist in her chest. "Mommy, look!" Lily shouted one morning, proudly showing a crayon drawing of 2 stick figures holding hands. "It's you and me." Emily smiled and kissed her forehead. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." But inside, her heart whispered, "And your brother, too." She kept a small wooden box hidden in the closet, a box that held the only connection to the son she hadn't seen since the day he was born. Inside was Michael's note, a hospital bracelet, and a photo of a tiny hand gripping her finger. Some nights she'd take it out, hold it close, and whisper, "I'm coming for you, baby. Mommy hasn't forgotten." Life had forced her to start over. With no husband, no savings, and no support, she'd returned to teaching at a local kindergarten. The pay was small, but the laughter of children gave her strength. Her colleagues admired her calm, gentle spirit, unaware of the storm she carried behind her smile. One afternoon, while reading to her class, the principal called her to the office. "Emily, there's someone here to see you." Her heart skipped. "Who?" "A man," the principal said. "He said his name is Michael Reynolds." The world seemed to pause. She stood frozen in the doorway, memories flooding back. The rain, the headlights, the promise. When she finally walked into the office, there he was, dressed sharply in a navy suit, but his kind eyes hadn't changed. "Emily," he said softly, standing. "It's been a long time." She could barely find her voice. "Michael, how did you find me?" He smiled faintly. "You signed the papers at the hospital. I kept my promise. I made sure your son was safe, but I thought you should see him for yourself." Her breath caught. "He's alive?" "He's more than alive," Michael said gently. "He's strong, smart. You should see how he laughs." Tears welled in her eyes. "My boy." Michael placed a small photo on the table. A smiling child with curly brown hair and bright eyes stared back at her. "His name is Ethan. I've raised him as my own, but he's always known he has another mother. He calls you his angel." Emily pressed the photo to her chest, sobbing silently. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved him." Michael shook his head. "No, Emily, you did. You gave him life and hope. I just gave him time." For the first time in years, Emily felt something she thought she'd lost forever: peace. But as she looked up at Michael's face, she saw something flicker in his eyes, a hesitation, as if there was more he hadn't told her yet. For a long moment, Emily couldn't speak. The photo of Ethan trembled in her hands as tears blurred her vision. Every detail of his face, his small dimples, the same blue eyes as Lily, pierced straight through her heart. Her son was alive, healthy, happy. But behind Michael's gentle smile, she sensed a shadow, something unsaid. "Michael," she whispered, her voice trembling, "there's something you're not telling me." "What is it?" He exhaled slowly, glancing at the closed office door before speaking. "There's no easy way to say this. When I agreed to take Ethan, I didn't just bring him home. I had to protect him from your husband." Emily's eyes widened. "Ryan?" Michael nodded. "After you disappeared from the hospital, Ryan showed up a few weeks later. He demanded to know where his son was. He claimed you'd abandoned both children and left town with another man. He wanted to take Ethan, but not Lily." Emily's stomach twisted. "He said that?" "He did," Michael said darkly. "And if I hadn't stepped in, he might have succeeded. He tried to file a custody claim, but I blocked it legally. I have resources, Emily, money, lawyers, influence. I made sure Ethan stayed safe." She pressed a hand to her chest. "Oh God, he was trying to take my baby from me." Michael hesitated. "He wasn't doing it for love. He wanted access to my foundation. He figured that if Ethan was connected to me, it would give him leverage. Vanessa encouraged it. They saw Ethan as a ticket to power." The name Vanessa still burned like acid. "She's still with him?" "For now," Michael replied. "But from what I've heard, their business is falling apart. Debt, lawsuits, unpaid taxes. They're desperate." Emily's voice cracked. "So he destroyed my life, and now he wants to use my son to save his." Michael leaned closer, his tone soft but firm. "He can't touch you anymore, or Ethan. I made sure of that." She looked up at him, tears streaming freely. "Why would you do all this for me? You barely knew me." He hesitated before answering. "Because the night I found you, you reminded me of my wife, Sarah. She died giving birth to our son. I couldn't save her, but maybe helping you was my second chance." Emily's heart ached with gratitude and sorrow. "You didn't just help me, Michael. You saved my family." He smiled gently. "Then let me do one more thing. Come see Ethan. He asks about you every night before bed. He calls you Mommy Angel. He deserves to know the truth." Emily froze. Her body wanted to say yes, but fear held her tongue. "What if Ryan finds out?" Michael's jaw tightened. "He won't. I'll handle it. I always keep my promises." Emily stared at the photo again, Ethan's innocent face glowing with life. For 3 years she had lived with half her heart missing. Now, for the first time, she had a chance to be whole again. But deep down, she knew the past never stays buried, and Ryan Carter wasn't finished with her yet. The day after Michael's visit, Emily couldn't concentrate on anything. Her mind was a storm. Fear, hope, guilt, love, all tangled together. Every time she looked at Lily's face, she saw Ethan's eyes staring back from the photo Michael had given her. The thought of seeing her son again filled her with both joy and terror. But the calm didn't last. That afternoon, as she dismissed her students, the school secretary hurried into her classroom, clutching an envelope. "Emily, this just came for you. It's marked urgent." Emily frowned and took it, her hands trembling. The return address read Law Offices of Stanton and Burke. Her heart dropped. She tore it open and read the first line aloud. "Notice of custody petition. Ryan Carter seeks full legal custody of minor child Lily Carter." Her legs nearly gave out. She gripped the desk to steady herself, the words blurring on the page. Ryan was suing her for custody of the daughter he'd abandoned. By the time she reached home, her body was shaking. She sat on the couch, reading the letter again and again. It was real. Her ex-husband, the man who left her to give birth alone in the rain, wanted to take Lily. The phone rang. She hesitated, then answered. "Emily." Ryan's voice came through, smooth but sharp. "You got my papers, I assume." Her throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you're not fit to raise a child," he said coldly. "You're living in a one-bedroom apartment, working part-time, barely making ends meet. Lily deserves better." "You mean she deserves Vanessa?" Emily snapped. "The woman who threw me out of my own home?" Ryan laughed, low and cruel. "Vanessa knows how to raise a child with class. You're a charity case." Tears welled in Emily's eyes, but anger burned hotter. "You have no idea what I've done for our children." "I know what you didn't do," he replied. "You gave one of them away. Don't forget, I can use that in court." Her breath caught. "You wouldn't." "Oh, I would," Ryan said smoothly. "And I will, unless you cooperate." "What do you want?" she whispered. "Half of Michael Reynolds' trust," he said bluntly. "You're still in touch with him, aren't you? Convince him to invest in my company. Do that and I'll drop the case." Emily's voice trembled. "You're disgusting." "I'm practical," Ryan said, his tone smug. "You have 1 week to decide. After that, the court will hear everything. The rain, the hospital, the son you gave away. Think about what that'll do to your reputation, your job, your daughter." The line went dead. Emily sat frozen, the phone slipping from her hand. For a moment, all she could hear was Lily's laughter from the next room, her sweet, innocent voice singing to her dolls. Emily pressed her face into her hands and wept. She had fought through humiliation, poverty, and heartbreak, but now Ryan was threatening the one thing she had left, her child. And for the first time, Emily realized this wasn't about love or revenge anymore. It was war. The night after Ryan's call, Emily didn't sleep. She sat by the window, the court papers spread across the table, her mind spinning. Every word felt like a threat carved into her soul. Lily slept peacefully in the next room, unaware that her future was being gambled like a business deal. Emily pressed a hand over her heart, whispering, "I won't let him take you. Not ever." By morning, she made a decision. She picked up her phone and dialed the only person she trusted. "Michael Reynolds," a calm voice answered. "Michael, it's Emily." Her voice broke. "Ryan's trying to take Lily. He filed for custody and he's using Ethan against me." There was silence on the line, then Michael's voice hardened. "He's blackmailing you." "Yes," she whispered. "He wants money from you. He said if I convince you to invest in his company, he'll drop the case." Michael let out a cold laugh. Typical. Ryan Carter always did have a talent for using people. Emily hesitated. "What should I do?" "You fight," he said simply. "And this time, you don't fight alone." Within days, Michael's legal team arrived. They filled her tiny apartment with stacks of documents and quiet determination. One of his attorneys, a sharp woman named Claire, smiled reassuringly. "We'll prove he's unfit, Emily. He abandoned you while you were in labor. That alone speaks volumes." Emily nodded, tears forming. "I just want my children safe." "They will be," Michael promised. "I'll make sure of it." Over the next week, Emily was pulled into a whirlwind of legal meetings and emotional exhaustion. Claire helped her gather evidence. Hospital records, witness statements from the night she was thrown out, even messages Ryan had sent months later blaming her for his failures. Meanwhile, Ryan and Vanessa prepared their own act. They arrived at the courthouse in expensive suits, holding hands like a picture-perfect couple. Reporters swarmed outside, flashing cameras and shouting questions. Inside, Ryan's lawyer smirked. "Your Honor, my client simply wants what's best for his child. Mrs. Carter is financially unstable and emotionally fragile." Emily sat quietly at the table, her hands trembling. But when the judge asked if she wished to speak, something inside her rose, strength she hadn't felt in years. Your Honor, she began, her voice steady but filled with pain. My husband left me while I was in labor. I begged him for help, and he turned his back. I gave one of our twins to another family, not because I didn't love him, but because it was the only way to save his life. I have fought every day to give my daughter love, safety, and stability, and I won't let her become another pawn in his greed. The courtroom fell silent. Even Vanessa shifted uncomfortably. Michael watched from the back, pride glimmering in his eyes. Ryan clenched his fists, his mask cracking. She's lying. The judge raised a hand. Enough. We'll reconvene tomorrow with further evidence. Emily exhaled, weak but unbroken. As she left the courtroom, Michael whispered, You just won the first round. But in her heart, Emily knew the real battle had only begun. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. Reporters filled the benches, eager to feed on the scandal of a custody war between a disgraced husband, his abandoned wife, and the mysterious millionaire who had suddenly entered the picture. Emily sat at the plaintiff's table, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Michael sat quietly behind her, his presence calm, unshakable, a silent wall of support. Ryan walked in with Vanessa on his arm, both dressed in designer black. Vanessa smirked as cameras flashed, whispering something into Ryan's ear that made him grin. Emily's stomach churned. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. We will continue the custody proceedings for minor Lily Carter, he announced. New evidence has been submitted by the defense. Michael's attorney, Claire, stood. Your Honor, before we proceed with custody, we request to introduce new documentation relevant to the family's history, specifically concerning the twin brother of the minor. Ryan's lawyer laughed mockingly. The boy is irrelevant to this case. He's under legal guardianship elsewhere. Claire's voice remained steady. Yes, Your Honor, under the guardianship of Mr. Michael Reynolds, who is here today. However, we have DNA test results that may alter the entire context of this custody claim. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Ryan shifted in his seat, his confidence faltering. The judge frowned. Proceed. Claire handed a sealed folder to the bailiff. Your Honor, these results confirm beyond question that the boy, Ethan Reynolds, and the girl, Lily Carter, are biological twins. Their mother is Emily Carter. Their father, she paused, letting the room hold its breath, is Ryan Carter. Gasps erupted. Vanessa's face went pale. Ryan slammed his hand on the table. That's impossible. The judge raised an eyebrow. Mr. Carter, are you denying the results of a certified paternity test? Ryan's lawyer scrambled to object, but Claire cut him off smoothly. Your Honor, this proves Mr. Carter was aware of both children and still abandoned his wife while she was in active labor. Furthermore, he attempted to reclaim one child only after learning of Mr. Reynolds' wealth. Michael finally stood. I have sworn statements, phone records, and hospital logs to prove it. Ryan Carter knew his wife was in danger and chose Vanessa Moore instead. Vanessa's composure cracked. Ryan, you said she lied. Ryan glared at her. Keep your mouth shut. But it was too late. The courtroom was buzzing, cameras clicking like 1,000 insects. The judge's gavel struck hard. Order. Order in the court. Emily sat frozen, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. She hadn't expected this. She'd braced herself to lose Lily, but now for the first time she saw the tide turning. The judge looked directly at Ryan. Mr. Carter, given this evidence, it appears your motives are financial, not paternal. Until further notice, full custody remains with Mrs. Carter. The court will investigate your actions more thoroughly. Ryan's face twisted with rage. You can't do this to me. Michael placed a steady hand on Emily's shoulder and whispered, It's over. For now. Emily turned toward him, her voice trembling. How did you even get that test? Michael's eyes softened. Because I knew the truth had to come out before he destroyed you completely. And as Ryan stormed out of the courtroom, Emily realized justice was finally beginning to wake up. The courthouse doors slammed open as Ryan stormed out, shoving past reporters. Vanessa followed close behind, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Ryan, she hissed, grabbing his arm. You told me you had this under control. He yanked away. How was I supposed to know she'd pull a DNA test out of nowhere? You think I planned that? Vanessa's voice dropped into a venomous whisper. You promised me everything, Ryan. The company, the money, the reputation. Now we're a joke. The media's tearing us apart. Ryan rubbed his temples. Calm down. We'll spin it. We always do. But Vanessa's eyes glimmered with something darker than fear, hatred. "No, you'll fix it," she said coldly, "because if I go down, I'm taking you with me." Later that evening, Emily returned home, clutching Lily's hand tightly. The air in her apartment felt lighter, freer. For the first time in years, she'd walked out of a courtroom with her dignity intact. Michael had stayed behind to handle the press, promising to shield her from the noise. She tucked Lily into bed, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "Sleep, my angel. Everything's okay now," she whispered. But as she turned off the lamp, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. Emily hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice slithered through the line. "Enjoying your victory? Vanessa?" Emily breathed, her pulse spiking. "Oh, don't sound so surprised," Vanessa sneered. "Did you really think you'd humiliate us in court and get away with it?" "Leave me alone," Emily then said firmly. Vanessa laughed softly. "Oh, Emily, I don't plan to hurt you. That would be too easy. But you should know, Ryan's not done. He's desperate, and desperate men do stupid things." The line went dead. Emily stood frozen, staring at the phone. A chill ran down her spine. She checked the locks twice before going to bed, but sleep never came. Across town, Vanessa poured herself a glass of wine in Ryan's penthouse. The news played softly in the background. Ryan Carter loses custody battle amid scandal. She smirked, swirling the glass. Ryan stormed in, face red with fury. "You called her, didn't you?" Vanessa didn't deny it. "Of course I did. Someone has to remind her she's not untouchable." "You're insane," Ryan spat. Vanessa set her glass down and stepped closer, her voice low and cold. "No, Ryan, I'm realistic. You lost your wife, your children, your company, and now the press is coming for you. But I can still fix this, if you listen to me." He frowned. "How?" Her lips curved into a wicked smile. "Simple. We take what she loves most." Ryan froze. "You're not serious." "I am," she said, eyes gleaming. "You can't beat her in court, so make her crumble another way." He turned away, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm not kidnapping my own kid, Vanessa." She leaned in, whispering, "Then I will." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Ryan slammed his fist against the wall. "Don't you dare touch them." But Vanessa only smiled. "It's too late for threats. You started this war. I'll end it." And as she walked out into the night, Ryan realized the monster he'd created was no longer under his control. The next morning began like any other. Sunlight streamed through Emily's kitchen window, the smell of toast and coffee filling the air. Lily sat at the table, humming while coloring with her crayons. For a brief, precious moment, everything felt normal, peaceful, safe. Emily smiled as she packed Lily's lunchbox. "We'll stop by the park after school, okay?" Lily grinned, showing her tiny dimples. "Can Ethan come too?" Emily's heart tightened. "Maybe soon, sweetheart," she whispered, brushing Lily's hair gently. By 9 o'clock, Emily dropped her daughter off at preschool, kissed her goodbye, and headed to work. She spent the morning teaching phonics, though her mind drifted constantly to Ethan and the strange phone call from Vanessa the night before. The woman's voice still echoed in her head. "We take what she loves most." At lunch, Emily's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number again. She froze. "You should have stayed quiet." Her stomach dropped. She called Michael immediately. "Emily, what's wrong?" "Vanessa," she said, her voice trembling. "She's threatening me again. I think she's planning something." "Where's Lily?" he asked sharply. "At school. Go get her. Right now. I'll send security." Emily didn't ask questions. She grabbed her bag and ran for the car. Every second felt like a heartbeat lost. But when she pulled up to the preschool, her heart stopped. The playground was empty. The teacher's aide stood outside, looking frantic. "Mrs. Carter," she cried. "Lily, she's gone." Emily's knees buckled. "What do you mean, gone?" "Her uncle came to pick her up," the aide stammered. "He said there was a family emergency. He showed ID, your last name." Emily's world spun. "I don't have a brother," she screamed. "Who was he? What did he look like?" The aide trembled. Tall, brown hair, driving a black car. Michael's voice barked through the phone as Emily gasped. "They have her. Vanessa took Lily." Within minutes, Michael's security team and police were on the move. He called her back, voice low but controlled. "Emily, listen to me. Don't panic. I'm tracking Ryan's phone and his vehicles. If Vanessa's behind this, we'll find her." Emily could barely breathe. What if she hurts her?" "She won't," Michael said firmly. "She wants power, not blood. Stay where you are." But Emily couldn't stay still. She drove through the city, calling out Lily's name like she could somehow will her back. Her eyes darted to every black car she saw, her heart pounding louder each time. Then her phone rang again. No caller ID. Emily answered, her voice breaking. "Vanessa? Please, where's my daughter?" A soft, mocking laugh came through. "Relax, Emily. She's perfectly safe, for now." "Please," Emily begged. "She's just a child." "Oh, I know," Vanessa purred. "Such a sweet little girl. Looks just like her brother. Imagine what people would say if both of your children suddenly disappeared." "Don't you touch her," Emily cried. "Then you'll do exactly as I say," Vanessa said coldly. "Tomorrow, noon, alone. If I see anyone with you, you'll never see your daughter again." The line went dead. Emily's hand shook so badly she dropped the phone, and as the sun set behind her, one truth pierced through her panic. Vanessa Moore wasn't bluffing this time. Emily barely slept that night. She sat on the edge of her bed, the phone clutched in her shaking hands, waiting for it to ring again. Every creak in the apartment made her flinch. Every shadow outside the window looked like a threat. The silence was unbearable. Somewhere out there, Lily was alone, frightened, and calling for her mother. When dawn broke, Emily's face was pale, her eyes red and swollen. She stared at the clock, 8 a.m., 4 hours until noon. 4 hours until she was supposed to meet the woman who had stolen her child. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared from an unknown number. "Warehouse on Harbor Road. Come alone. Bring no police, or she disappears for good." Emily's heart pounded. She grabbed her car keys, ready to run, but Michael appeared at the door. His expression was grim, his phone in one hand, his security team behind him. "You're not going alone," he said firmly. "She said no police," Emily replied. "If she sees you, she'll hurt Lily." Michael stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think I'll let you walk into a trap by yourself? Emily, you're a mother, not a soldier. Let me protect you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "She won't give Lily back if she senses anything. Please, Michael, I have to do this. Alone." He studied her for a long moment, then handed her a small earpiece. "You'll wear this. I'll be nearby, but out of sight. If anything happens, you call my name. Do you understand?" Emily nodded weakly. By late morning, clouds gathered over the city again. Emily drove through empty streets, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. The warehouse district looked abandoned, rows of rusted metal and broken glass. She parked near a flickering streetlight and took a deep breath. Inside, the air was cold and damp. Her footsteps echoed across the concrete floor. "Vanessa," she called out. "I'm here. Where's my daughter?" A slow clap echoed from the shadows. Vanessa emerged, dressed in black, her hair perfectly styled as if this were some twisted business meeting. "You actually came," she said, smiling. "I didn't think you had it in you." "Where is she?" Emily demanded. Vanessa motioned behind her. A small whimper echoed through the room. Lily sat tied to a chair, tears streaking her cheeks. "Mommy!" she cried. Emily rushed forward, but Vanessa raised a gun, stopping her cold. "Not yet," she said smoothly. "First, you're going to make a call. You're going to tell Michael Reynolds to transfer $5 million to the account I text you. Do that and you can have your little girl back." Emily's breath caught. "Money? This is about money?" Vanessa laughed. "It's always about money. Your husband failed me, so you'll pay his debt." Emily's voice shook. "You'll never get away with this." "Oh, sweetheart," Vanessa whispered, pressing the gun closer. "I already have." But just then, a faint crackle came from Emily's earpiece, Michael's voice barely audible. "Hold on, Emily. I'm here." Vanessa frowned. "What was that?" Emily swallowed hard, forcing calm into her trembling voice. "It's nothing." But deep inside, she knew the moment she made one wrong move, she could lose everything, including her life. The warehouse air was thick with tension. Emily's heart pounded so loudly she could hear it echoing in her ears. Vanessa stood a few feet away, gun in hand, her eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. The only sound between them was the distant hum of the storm gathering outside. "Call him," Vanessa ordered. "Now." Emily's trembling fingers reached for her phone. She glanced at Lily, whose small hands were tied, her lips trembling. "It's okay, baby," Emily whispered, trying to sound calm. "Mommy's here." Vanessa smirked. "How touching. But let's hurry, shall we?" Emily dialed Michael's number, pressing the speaker button. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. When his voice answered, calm but cold, Vanessa smiled. "Michael Reynolds," she purred. "We finally meet, well, sort of." Michael's tone hardened. Vanessa Moore, let the child go, and I'll give you what you want. Oh, I intend to, Vanessa said sweetly. Once the money hits my account. Emily met Michael's eyes through the small camera he'd planted in her earring earlier. Her silent plea was clear. Don't give in. Michael's voice came again, measured. You'll get your transfer in 10 minutes, but if you hurt either of them, I'll find you. Vanessa laughed. You rich men love your threats. She gestured toward Emily. Sit down. Don't make me nervous. Emily slowly obeyed, lowering herself onto the cold floor. Her mind raced. If she could distract Vanessa long enough, maybe Michael's team could move in. Vanessa, she said softly, you don't have to do this. You could still walk away. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Please, don't insult me with moral speeches. Do you know how many years I spent being nothing? Cleaning up after men like Ryan, pretending to be grateful for scraps? Emily shook her head. And this is your answer? Hurting a child? Vanessa's voice cracked for the first time. It's not about her. It's about taking back what was stolen from me. Before Emily could respond, headlights cut through the warehouse windows. Vanessa froze, turning toward the sound. What is that? Michael's voice came through the speaker. Your 10 minutes are up. Vanessa spun, raising the gun toward Emily. You lied to me. Emily's pulse raced. No, it's just the delivery van, you said. But Vanessa's finger tightened on the trigger. Suddenly, a flash of movement erupted from the shadows. A loud crack echoed. The gun flew from Vanessa's hand as a dark figure tackled her to the ground. It was one of Michael's men. Get the girl, he shouted. Emily scrambled to Lily, cutting the ropes with shaking hands. It's okay, sweetheart, we're going home. Lily clung to her neck, sobbing. Behind them, Vanessa screamed, thrashing against her captor. You'll regret this. You'll all regret this. Michael rushed in seconds later, his coat drenched from the rain. He grabbed Emily's hand. Are you hurt? She shook her head, tears streaming. No, but Lily, she's safe now. Michael turned to the security officer. Take her, he ordered. She won't threaten this family again. As Vanessa was dragged away, she glared back at Emily, her voice a venomous whisper. This isn't over. Emily held Lily tighter, her heart still racing. But deep inside she knew Vanessa wasn't lying, because evil like hers never disappeared quietly. Rain poured outside the police station as the flashing red and blue lights reflected across the wet pavement. Emily sat inside a small interview room, wrapped in a blanket, holding Lily tightly in her lap. The little girl had finally stopped crying, her head resting against her mother's chest. Every time Emily inhaled, she could still smell the gunpowder and damp concrete from the warehouse. Across the table, Detective Harris closed his notepad. Miss Carter, you and your daughter are safe now. Vanessa Moore's in custody. She'll be charged with kidnapping, extortion, and attempted assault. Emily nodded numbly. What about Ryan? The detective's jaw tightened. We're bringing him in. We found text messages between him and Vanessa. He helped plan the abduction. He's out of state right now, but we've issued a warrant. Emily stared at the table, her fingers trembling as she stroked Lily's hair. He was supposed to be their father, she whispered. Michael stood near the doorway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He made his choice a long time ago, Emily. You don't owe that man a single tear. She looked up at him, her voice breaking. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't even be alive. Michael stepped closer and knelt beside her chair. You saved yourself, he said gently. You didn't wait to be rescued. You fought. Emily wanted to believe that, but her body still shook with exhaustion. She had spent years running from pain, and now that it was finally over, she didn't know how to stop trembling. The detective stood. You can go home. We'll keep an officer outside your building for a few days, just in case. Michael nodded. Thank you, detective. I'll make sure she's protected. Outside, the storm had eased into a steady drizzle. Michael walked Emily and Lily to his car. The streets were empty, washed clean by the rain. Emily buckled Lily into the back seat, then leaned against the door, closing her eyes. I keep thinking she's going to wake up screaming, she murmured. She's just a child, Michael. She didn't deserve this. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Neither did you. The drive back to her apartment was silent. When they arrived, Michael insisted on checking every window and door before letting her inside. The apartment felt different now, like a place that had survived a war. Lily was already asleep when Emily tucked her into bed. She lingered for a long moment, watching her daughter's steady breathing, then quietly stepped into the living room where Michael was waiting. "She's safe," Emily whispered. Michael gave a faint smile. "So are you." But Emily shook her head. "Vanessa's in jail, Ryan's running, but this isn't finished, is it?" Michael exhaled slowly. "No, people like Ryan don't stop until they're destroyed, and I intend to make sure he is." Emily's eyes widened. "You'd do that? For me?" He met her gaze, his voice low. "For you, for Ethan, for Lily, for everything he took from you." Emily felt her chest tighten, not from fear, but from something new, something dangerous and real. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving, she was standing beside a man who would fight for her, no matter the cost. A week later, the headlines were everywhere. Businessman Ryan Carter wanted in kidnapping scandal. Former CEO's mistress faces 20-year sentence. The story had exploded across every news channel. Reporters camped outside Emily's apartment, hungry for a comment, but she stayed silent. She wasn't chasing revenge anymore. She just wanted peace. Michael, however, wasn't finished. He sat in his downtown office, staring at a folder marked Carter Holdings. His lawyers had spent days uncovering everything Ryan had tried to hide: fraud, embezzlement, forged contracts, unpaid debts. Each page was another nail in Ryan's coffin. When his assistant entered, Michael looked up. "Is everything ready?" "Yes, sir. The financial investigation is complete. We've also traced several offshore accounts under his and Vanessa's names." Michael nodded. "Good. Make sure every file goes to the authorities. Quietly. I don't want him to see it coming." That evening, Emily visited him. She looked stronger, still tired, but no longer broken. "You've done enough for me already," she said softly. "You don't have to keep fighting my battles." Michael smiled faintly. "Emily, this isn't just your battle. He tried to destroy your life. He nearly got your daughter killed. A man like that doesn't deserve to walk free." Her eyes shimmered. "You sound like someone who's lost too much already." He hesitated, then nodded. "I have, but maybe helping you, helping them, is how I make peace with my past." Emily stepped closer. "Then let me help you too." The next morning, news broke that Ryan Carter had been found. Police arrested him in Nevada, where he'd been hiding in a rented warehouse, trying to move money out of the country. When they brought him back to California, he looked nothing like the man Emily once loved. His hair unkempt, his eyes hollow. At the courthouse, Emily stood in the back as Ryan was led in handcuffs past the cameras. For a brief moment, his eyes met hers. There was no love, no regret, only the realization that she was free and he was not. During the hearing, Ryan tried to speak, his voice shaking. "Emily, please. I never meant for it to go this far." She looked at him calmly. "You meant every choice you made. You just never thought I'd survive them." The judge read out the charges: fraud, conspiracy, endangerment, kidnapping assistance. Ryan's lawyer barely fought back. The evidence Michael had provided was airtight. When the sentence came, 15 years without parole, the courtroom erupted in murmurs. Emily closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. They weren't tears of grief this time. They were tears of release. Outside, Michael waited. "It's done," he said quietly as she approached. Emily nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "He can't hurt us anymore." Michael smiled gently. "No, he can't. And now, you can start living again." Emily looked toward the horizon, the late afternoon sun cutting through the clouds. "Maybe for the first time, I finally know what that means." Because justice had come full circle. And for Emily Carter, the reckoning was not an ending, but a beginning. Spring came early that year. The air smelled of renewal, fresh grass, blooming roses, and the faint sweetness of second chances. For the first time in a long time, Emily Carter woke up without fear. The nightmares had faded, replaced by quiet mornings filled with laughter and light. Lily ran barefoot through the small garden outside their new home, chasing bubbles that glimmered in the sun. Her giggles floated through the air, pure and bright. Emily stood at the kitchen window, watching her daughter play, a cup of tea warming her hands. Michael had found them the house, a modest 2-story cottage on the edge of town, surrounded by wildflowers and peace. "You deserve somewhere that doesn't remind you of the past," he'd said when he handed her the keys. And he was right. Now, every wall in the house told a new story. Drawings taped to the fridge, photos of Lily and Ethan smiling side by side, frames filled with sunlight instead of pain. Ethan. The boy she once thought she'd lost forever. He was living nearby with Michael, but spent most weekends with her and Lily. The twins were inseparable, laughing and bickering like they'd never spent a day apart. When she looked at them together, Emily often felt tears sting her eyes. Tears of gratitude, not grief. One Saturday afternoon, Michael arrived with Ethan, his sleeves rolled up, carrying a box of groceries. "The kids demanded spaghetti night," he said, smiling. Emily laughed. "They're a tough crowd to please." He placed the box on the counter, then paused, watching her quietly. "You seem different lately, lighter." She nodded, her gaze soft. "Because I finally stopped waiting for the past to apologize. I decided to forgive it instead." Michael's expression softened. "That takes strength." "Maybe," she said, "but I had help." Dinner that evening was loud and joyful. The children's laughter filled every corner of the house. Ethan showed Lily how to twirl spaghetti with a fork, while Michael helped Emily set the table. For once, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was living. After the kids were tucked in, Emily stepped outside onto the porch. The sky was painted in shades of lavender and gold. Michael joined her, standing beside her in comfortable silence. "You've built something beautiful here," he said softly. Emily smiled. "We did." He turned to her, his eyes gentle. "Emily, I need to tell you something. When I met you that night in the rain, I thought I was saving you. But the truth is, you saved me. You gave my life meaning again." Her breath caught. "Michael," he took her hand carefully. "I know you've been through more pain than most people could bear. I don't want to rush you or confuse gratitude with love, but if there's even a part of you that could see a future with me, I'd wait as long as it takes." Emily looked at him, her heart full. "You don't have to wait," she whispered. As the first stars appeared in the sky, she leaned in and kissed him softly. A promise, not of escape, but of home. Because after years of heartbreak and loss, Emily Carter finally stepped into the life she was always meant to live. Months passed, and the small cottage on the edge of town blossomed into something more than a home. It became a symbol of survival, a sanctuary built from heartbreak, hope, and love. Emily Carter had once been a woman broken by betrayal. Now, she was a woman reborn through forgiveness. Life settled into a gentle rhythm. Every morning began with the sound of laughter as Ethan and Lily chased each other around the kitchen table while Michael cooked breakfast. The air smelled of pancakes and warmth. Sometimes, Emily would pause in the doorway, watching them, her heart swelling at the sight of her children finally growing up in safety. One morning, Lily tugged on her dress. "Mommy, are you and Mr. Michael married yet?" Emily laughed, kneeling to her daughter's level. "Not yet, sweetheart," Ethan chimed in with a grin. "You should, then we'd all be a real family." Michael looked up from the stove, pretending to think. "That's not a bad idea," he said playfully, glancing at Emily. Her cheeks flushed. "You two are quite the little matchmakers," she said, shaking her head. But deep down, the thought didn't frighten her anymore. For years, love had been something that hurt, something that betrayed. Now it was gentle again, patient, honest, healing. Later that week, Emily began volunteering at a local women's shelter. She told her story, not the headlines, not the scandal, but the truth. About the night she gave birth in the rain, about losing one child and finding him again, about the courage it took to start over. The women listened, some crying, others holding her hand. "You're proof that we can survive anything," one woman whispered. Emily smiled softly. "We don't just survive," she said. "We rebuild." Meanwhile, Michael expanded his foundation to support single mothers and victims of domestic abuse. He named the initiative the Lily and Ethan Project. When reporters asked why, he simply said, "Because they're proof that love can grow from the darkest places." The grand opening drew a crowd. Emily stood beside Michael on the stage, holding Lily's hand while Ethan stood proudly between them. Cameras flashed, but this time she didn't hide. She stood tall, radiant, no longer the woman who had been left in the rain, but the woman who had turned that storm into light. When the ribbon was cut, the crowd erupted in applause. Michael leaned toward her and whispered, This is your legacy, Emily." She looked out at the audience, her voice steady. "No, this is ours." That night, after the celebration, Emily sat on the porch with Michael. The children were asleep, their laughter still echoing faintly inside the house. The moonlight bathed everything in silver. I used to think my story ended the night Ryan left me, she said softly. But now I see, it was only the beginning. Michael smiled, taking her hand. Sometimes it takes losing everything to find what really matters. Emily leaned her head on his shoulder, her heart finally at peace, because love, once broken, had found its way back, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet power of starting over. The letter arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Emily found it wedged in her mailbox, its edges worn, the handwriting unmistakable, Ryan's. Her hands trembled as she turned it over. There was no return address, only 3 words written in the corner. Please read this. She carried it inside, her heart uneasy. Michael was out of town for a conference, and the kids were at school. The house was silent except for the ticking clock on the wall. For several minutes she simply stared at the envelope, torn between anger and curiosity. Then, finally, she opened it. Emily, it began, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I've lost everything. My freedom, my name, my soul. I think about that night in the rain every day. I see your face at the door, and I see what I did to you. I don't know how to make peace with it, except to say I'm sorry. I'm being transferred to a federal facility next week. If you can find it in your heart, please let me see our children one last time. Her breath caught. She read the letter twice, her emotions spiraling. For years she had dreamed of this moment, Ryan begging for forgiveness. But now that it was real, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a wound reopening. That evening, when Michael returned, she handed him the letter. He read it silently, his jaw tightening. He doesn't deserve your time, he said flatly. I know, Emily whispered. But Lily and Ethan, they deserve closure. Michael hesitated, then nodded slowly. If you do this, I'll go with you. A week later, they drove to the state prison 2 hours away. The children were in the back seat, quiet and curious. Emily had explained only that they were visiting someone from the past. As they approached the tall gray walls and iron gates, her stomach twisted. Inside the visitor's room, Ryan looked older, smaller somehow. His once perfect hair was streaked with gray, his eyes sunken. When he saw them, he froze. Emily, he said softly, you came. She nodded. For them. Lily and Ethan clung to her hands. Ryan's eyes filled with tears as he looked at them. They're beautiful, he whispered. You did that. You gave them everything I couldn't. Emily swallowed hard. They deserve to know who you are, but they also deserve to know what choices lead you here. Ryan nodded, his voice breaking. I was a coward. I let greed and pride destroy everything. I thought love was control. I was wrong. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then Ethan stepped forward timidly. Are you sorry? Ryan's lips trembled. More than you'll ever know. Lily squeezed Emily's hand. Mommy says forgiveness makes hearts lighter. Emily smiled faintly, tears glistening in her eyes. She's right. Ryan looked at her, hope flickering. Then, can you forgive me? Emily met his gaze steadily. I already did. Not for you, for us. When they left, the sky outside was clear and bright. Michael placed a hand on her back as they walked to the car, and as the prison gates closed behind them, Emily Carter finally felt the last ghost of her past fade away. The morning sun glowed golden across the meadow, glinting off the rows of white chairs and the archway woven with soft pink roses. The scent of lavender floated on the breeze, and the sound of gentle music drifted through the air. It was the kind of day that seemed too perfect to be real. Like the universe itself had decided that Emily Carter finally deserved a little peace. She stood inside the small cottage, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back was not the same one who had once knelt in the rain, begging to be let inside her own home. This woman stood tall, her eyes bright, her heart unafraid. The ivory dress hugged her frame softly, simple and elegant. No diamonds, no excess. Just truth. Lily peeked through the door, her curls bouncing. Mommy, are you ready? Mr. Michael's waiting. Emily laughed, a tear escaping despite her best effort. Almost, sweetheart. How do I look? Lily twirled in excitement. Like an angel. Ethan appeared behind her, wearing a tiny suit and holding the bouquet. I'm supposed to walk you down the aisle, he said proudly. Emily knelt and kissed his cheek. You and your sister are my greatest gift. Today's for all of us. Outside, guests gathered. Friends from the shelter, neighbors, Michael's colleagues. No reporters, no flashes, no chaos, just love. The string quartet began to play softly as the doors opened. When Emily stepped out, everyone rose. The sunlight framed her like a painting, and at the end of the aisle stood Michael, his eyes locked on hers. His suit was dark gray, his expression calm yet filled with something deeper: gratitude, awe, devotion. As she walked, each step felt like closing a chapter she had carried too long. The ghosts of betrayal, fear, and loneliness faded with every heartbeat. When she reached him, Ethan handed her the bouquet and whispered, "You got this, Mom." Michael took her hands gently, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "You're breathtaking," he murmured. The officiant smiled. "Today isn't just a union of two hearts. It's a celebration of endurance, forgiveness, and the courage to love again." When it was time for vows, Emily's voice trembled, but never wavered. "I once thought love was something that could be taken away. But you showed me that real love doesn't demand, it heals. You've given my children a father, and you've given me back myself. I promise to spend the rest of my life protecting what we built together." Michael's eyes glistened. "I promise to love you, not because you need saving, but because you taught me how to live again. You and the kids are my miracle." The crowd grew quiet as they exchanged rings. Then, as the officiant spoke the final words, "You may kiss the bride," Michael pulled her close, the cheers rising around them. Lily clapped. "Mommy's married." Ethan laughed, throwing petals into the air. Emily looked up at the sky, sunlight warming her face. Because after every storm, there is a sunrise. And this time, it was hers. 5 years later, the Carter Reynolds family gathered beneath a canopy of golden leaves. The meadow where Emily and Michael had been married was now a living memory. Lush gardens, a small playground, and a plaque that read, "The Lily and Ethan Foundation. Hope grows here." Children laughed nearby, running through the grass, their joy echoing like music. Emily stood beside Michael, watching as Lily and Ethan helped paint a mural with the other kids. Their laughter was loud, unrestrained, pure. It was everything she had once prayed for. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years," Michael said, slipping an arm around her waist. Emily smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Some days it feels like yesterday. Others, it feels like a lifetime ago." He nodded toward the mural. "You gave them that, the chance to live without fear." She turned to him, her eyes shining. "We did." After Ryan's sentencing, they had quietly built a new life. The past was no longer a shadow, it was a lesson. Emily often visited the shelter where her journey to healing began, guiding women through their own storms. She never told them her name from the news stories. She didn't need to. They knew her heart. Michael's foundation had expanded globally, helping mothers and children find safety, education, and dignity. Together, they'd turned their pain into purpose. That afternoon, they hosted the foundation's 5th anniversary event. Guests mingled across the field, sharing stories of resilience and triumph. As Emily took the stage, the crowd fell silent. "When I stood here years ago," she began, her voice warm but steady, "I was a woman who had lost almost everything. My marriage, my home, my sense of worth. But life has a strange way of turning heartbreak into new beginnings. The night I thought I was dying in the rain was really the night I started to live, because someone stopped to help, and because 2 tiny hearts gave me a reason to keep fighting." Her eyes found Lily and Ethan in the crowd. "Today I see those same hearts, brave, kind, and unbreakable. This foundation isn't just my story. It's the story of anyone who's ever been told they're not enough. It's proof that love can rebuild what cruelty tried to destroy." The audience rose to their feet, clapping, some wiping tears. Michael joined her on stage, wrapping an arm around her as cameras flashed, not for scandal this time, but for celebration. Later, as dusk settled, Emily sat beneath the oak tree where they had once exchanged vows. The children played nearby, their laughter soft under the fading light. Michael joined her, handing her a photo. It was old and faded, Emily in a hospital bed, holding newborn Lily, and beside her, Michael cradling baby Ethan. "We've come a long way," he said quietly. She smiled, brushing her fingers over the image. "We really have." He kissed her forehead. "If someone told you then that this is where you'd end up, would you have believed it?" Emily looked at the sky, the stars beginning to appear. "No," she whispered, "but I would have hoped for it." Because the rain that once broke her became the soil where her new life bloomed, and this time it would last forever. So that's how the story ends. And if you're still here, my friend, it probably means something in Emily's journey touched your heart in a quiet, honest way. Maybe you've felt broken before. Maybe you've had to start over. Emily's story reminds us of what the Stoics often taught, that we cannot control what happens, but we can always choose how to rise from it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Life will test us, but healing isn't about forgetting the storm. It's about learning to dance in the rain afterward. If this story made you feel something, even for a moment, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Because maybe, just maybe, the next story we tell will heal another heart, just like yours.